Hi, I'm Celeste. I'm a graduate student at Liberty University online through the Master's Program of Licensed Professional Counseling. Currently, I'm in my first semester of internship. I live in the Hampton Roads area of Virginia, and I have had the same site and same supervisor from my practicum and my internship. I would recommend adding another site or supervisor just to get some diversity of experience and some different networking. I personally didn't want to add any more chaos. I felt like I was just learning and getting used to the site that I was at. So I didn't personally want to add that, but I think it would be a good thing to do. So the site that I'm at is a nonprofit organization, and they take a lot of court-mandated clients. So we have domestic violence groups, we have some peaceful choices for teens and adolescents. We also have some different grant programs that allow for victims of crime to receive counseling for free or at a very reduced rate for them. So the pros and cons of the site that I'm at, the pros are the variety of programs. That was why I chose that site. All the different things that are offered. There's neurofeedback, there's group counseling, there's children and adolescents as well as adults. But also that's a con, that it takes a lot of experience learning all these different programs. So there was a lot of different nuances. Each program had its own way of doing an intake or handling a client that you had to learn and get used to those different programs. Some of the other pros, though, for the site are just that it's a nonprofit. So being able to learn about funding and writing grants, and then also the ramifications of losing the grant funding was something that I was able to witness. And having to do all the different reports for the grants are things that we can participate in as interns, and that was really beneficial. So I was able to witness and participate in neurofeedback, domestic violence, peaceful choices for adolescents, the visitation programs as well, safe visitation, and also victims of crime having some counseling. Some of the cons for the site that I was at are that because of the number of programs and the variety of that, it did lead to some disorganization. And that was frustrating as an intern coming in and having to learn all these different programs, but not really having one source to go to. For example, I would have to ask each individual person who is responsible for that program what the expectations of that program were. And so that was confusing and frustrating as a new intern. There wasn't a whole lot of unified organization. And I'm not sure if that's something that could have been fixed, but the disorganization of the center was frustrating for me as an intern. Let's see. So the supervisor that I was with, I would say that one of the main first pros is that she has a lot of experience supervising other interns. And so she's had plenty of experience doing that. And I felt safe whenever I would ask her a question. She would stop what she was doing and try to address that question and answer that for me. So I felt very validated in that. And that was a good feeling as an intern. Also, whenever we would have our weekly supervision, she would always be prepared with some teaching moment, either reviewing a different theory or teaching about some interventions. And so that was really nice. I enjoyed being able to, maybe it wasn't brand new learning, but a refresher, and also be able to have this practical application of learning through my supervisor was really nice. And so I felt like I learned a lot through her. And some of the cons were that she does work part-time, and so she has limited availability. And like I said previously, if I had different questions, sometimes she would ask me to go ask the other people who were responsible for that program the questions. And so that was a con, that I didn't have just one place to go to ask for questions. But that could also be a pro, that you have a variety of people who are there to support you. One big thing that I enjoyed was also the site's weekly supervision, group supervision. So they would meet weekly for clinicals, and that was really helpful because you got all of the staff there together. We did case reviews, and We did quality file review to make sure the files were quality controlled, and then also just some different trainings. And so like weekly we would have trainings, and I got a lot of exposure, play therapy and marriage therapy and all sorts of different training that was offered because they were group supervision hours that we were able to participate in. So that was a benefit of the site that I was at. The clientele that I worked with, because it was a nonprofit, it was still very diverse though. We had clients who were infants all the way up to elderly. We had a large age range. We had very different, even the socioeconomic class was varied. And so we were able to have a lot of different clientele, people who would come court mandated, and also people who would come because, they were seeking out counseling themselves. So the diversity was very good. Also, because there were different programs that we were administering, some of them had curriculums. So that was nice that I already had a curriculum in place that I could use with the clients and have some exercises kind of there on the ready to use. Now, the con with that is a lot of times the curriculum was not really applicable, and we would have to go, off for a little bit of a tangent and sort of let the client process and discuss therapeutically what they wanted to talk about and what they needed to discuss. Another con about the clientele that we served was I personally didn't feel prepared for the level of severity of some of the clients. There was a lot of trauma, and we did have to have a mandatory trauma training before we saw clients through the center, but I still didn't feel very prepared for a lot of the severity of the mental needs that were presented by our clients. So that was something that was a challenge that I needed to, I sought supervision help and asked my supervisor for some help with, especially the suicidal clients that we saw and some of the trauma clients that we saw. As a student, my experience as a student has been, I switched and was a stay-at-home mom, and then am now in this program. And so learning professionalism was a huge thing for me. Even simple things like remembering to call my supervisor when I was going to be late, or little things like that, I really needed to learn how to be professional. So I feel like, for my own experience, a professional development class in our Liberty program would be really helpful for me. Something like, even just resumes and networking. How do we write and publish things? How do we present? How do we find jobs? How can we start a private practice? Or any of these professional development things could have been a useful class to have through our program. Also, I feel like watching actual counseling videos would have been, I know we had a few in our program, but I asked my supervisor if I was able to watch any of her counseling, or actually watching licensed professionals counsel in real life, real time with real clients would have been much more useful for me than just receiving feedback on my own counseling. So I think that would be something that we could incorporate more in our program, is to have more live counseling videos. I did feel like, however, I had so many resources and tools that were given to me by the professors, and so much so that I didn't even really know what to ask. There were so many resources given by the practicum and internship instructors that was a really good resource for me to ask them all these different interventions and theories and how do they apply that in real life, and the practical application of that was really useful. So these are some of my experiences that I've had as an internship student through the Liberty program, and I hope that you can find them useful as you go forward. Thank you.